Hey, it's Jamie from jamieedwards.com again, and today I want to talk to you about the life cycle of a software business. When I first got into software development over 20 years ago, I found that many times I'd be on a project and I really felt like I had no idea how the company really made money. And even if I did, I didn't really understand where were they in their market and what was their strategy for going about actually selling their product and making sure that as time went on, that product continued to make money. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about some basic information. This is going to be a fundamental video for a lot of the other things I'm going to teach in my future videos to help you understand some of the things that you should consider when you're either joining a software company or maybe you're a software consultant and you want to go into an existing company and help them manage their products better. So this is just a very basic slide that'll show you how I think a lot of software companies think their business works. And I think this will be a good, just quick topic to talk about to help you understand some of the things that I've found are a little bit counterintuitive about, in my experience in working with over 30 companies as both a software developer and employee, as well as going into consulting, some of the mistakes I've seen in the way people think about their software business. Well, in this diagram, I'm kind of showing you here, really basic diagram. It's really just showing, profit on the y-axis and time on the x-axis. And a lot of companies, and these are companies that I find that aren't truly agile, or they haven't really found a way to manage their software products in a more lean fashion, which I talk about in many of my other videos. They think about their business as a lot of times one product or one primary capability. And this may be a little bit more true also for smaller software development companies or companies that really have one primary software product. But if you look kind of at this diagram, you'll notice it's sort of flat at the beginning. And this is really because what I want to show you here is a lot of people make a lot of investment in their software product that has no return on investment for them until they release something. And so that flat line really just kind of represents the company's going along with their software developers. They're building things. They might be using Scrum and they're doing things off an agile backlog. But until they actually release something, which is really this vertical line, this first vertical line here, they're not really going to increase their profit or their revenue. Now, once they do, a lot of companies tend to sit on their laurels, which is really what the second horizontal line is meant to represent, which is, they're making a lot of money. Maybe the product grew quite a bit. They made a major investment in it. And so they go out and get some feedback from their customers and they do some planning sessions and they buckle down and they do a whole bunch more upfront planning and make a lot of assumptions that, in my opinion, turn out to be very false, and make another huge investment in maybe a major revision to that product. And so they chug along on that, spending a bunch of money, and at some point they release that, and hopefully, this is this second vertical line that you see here, they profit some more. And this just kind of continues until they sort of hit this top peak of the product's life cycle. And they find that, our market is usually what happens is their market is saturated, meaning they can't find any new customers. They can't find additional ways to extract revenue out of those customers. And so part of the reason I'm talking to you about this, I want you to understand, if you're just a software developer out there or a programmer or, in DevOps or something like that, you might be thinking, why does this matter to me? Well, I think this matters a lot because what I'm going to talk to you about today is this is kind of a false paradigm for how the product's life cycle really happens in the real world, and how you can actually use these simple diagrams and the information in this video to kind of figure out where your product is at the company you work for and hopefully make some better technology decisions. And I'm going to talk a lot more about that in future videos, to decide if I'm going to go about, let's say, introducing a framework, or I'm going to go about trying to convince the business to use technology in a certain way. Does it really make sense for me to do that based on where in their life cycle of their products they are? So just kind of finishing out this diagram, this last vertical bar that sort of brings the line down in profit is really sort of representing what we typically think of as sunsetting or end of life of a product. It's really that the product is not really very profitable anymore. It's actually losing profit rather. And at some point, that product usually becomes not viable. And a lot of times, if it's a software company that doesn't do a very good job of managing the business, this last horizontal line here represents what might be like an exit event. Maybe they sell the product for significantly less than it was worth in the market at one point in time, just to try to recover some sort of revenue. So the second thing that I want to show you here is this is actually, in my opinion, more representative of what truly happens on a software product. And keep in mind, this is a software product in your business that is hopefully being developed in a more agile or lean fashion where you're releasing things very frequently. So looking at this, it's really an S curve, and many companies, this is kind of the beginning of this green line here, they start out having to go into a deficit. They're spending money, they're actually less profitable, it takes significant investment. And all the way along this bottom line here, they're continuing to release things. So before this line starts to uptick at all, what I'm trying to get across here is there may be 10 or 50 releases even of the product until it starts to grow more exponentially and make much more profit for the company. So, just in my experience in over 20 years of doing this with many different companies, if a company is more realistic, I think about when they're bringing a new product to market, or it might be a major new version of a product, there's always going to be things that we assume about the product that are valuable that are just going to be turn out to be patently false. And if we don't think about our product as something we make a big investment in and then release and hope we increase in profit, like in the previous diagram, in a big investment and then hope we increase in profit, what that lets us do is actually have a longer period of time that we can release things and not be so attached to whether everything that we release is actually going to make money for the company. And it actually takes a lot of stress off the software development team as well, because if the software development team is really helping the business just kind of design experiments, they have a theory, I think this change to the product is going to affect some KPI, maybe it's going to increase signups, or it's going to increase renewal rates, or whatever those things are in your business. Let's say it's a hospital, it's going to increase the patient satisfaction or something like that. I think companies that can be more humble about the fact that they don't really know for sure, they have theories, but they don't know for sure if what they're going to invest is actually going to return what they want, that lets them spend a little bit at a time. And that's really what this sort of bar represents. Now, at some point in your company, hopefully, and many startups will fail before they even get to this point, you kind of reach this inflection point, and that's what the curve starting to bend upwards represents, where usually market fit is finally found. So there's the right combination of features, the right combination of design, we've gotten the right feedback from the customer, we've adapted the product, and suddenly the amount of profit that the company's making is significant. And when we reach that threshold, usually that changes the way the business operates a lot. I'm going to talk a lot about this more in future videos, but one of the problems I used to run into, and I see other software companies run into, is they try to run the software development process, meaning how you do your automated deployment, your testing, your coding, whatever aspect of software development there is. They try to do that the same as the company grows. And in my experience, you need to actually change the software development process as the company's products change. So at some point, though, hopefully the company gets into this kind of exponential growth curve. And this is really what investors look for, right? When there's angel investors or VCs out there and they're investing in a software company, they want to get it to that growth as fast as possible. And there's a variety of ways of doing that. You can go back and watch my video on minimum viable products, and I talk about that. But at some point, this product is going to, again, saturate its market, like I talked about in the prior video, and it's going to really hit this level off point that the top of this S curve is meant to represent. And one thing that I just want to get across to you in this version of the diagram is Facebook as an example. Right now, Facebook is really closer to up here. They've released many versions over the years and grown their profit and their business, considerably, but they've kind of hit the threshold where through their advertising efforts and continuing to expand, the primary Facebook platform has somewhat leveled off. They've reached market saturation. There's only so many more users that can be added to it. Well, what Facebook has done and many other companies do that want to stay in business long term, and this is really important, I want to get this across to you, is they don't manage their business on a single product focus, which is really what this diagram represents. Rather, they really represent their product by overlapping products' life cycles. So if we look at this, this is just kind of a slightly adjusted version of the prior slide. Product A is what we were just looking at, right? It's the life cycle of a product. Well, what a company needs to do if they're going to stay profitable and they're going to continue to grow, and this is why, I'm explaining this to you because, again, I'm going to do many future videos where I'm going to come back to these slides to help you understand how to make what I would think maybe are better technology decisions or have better expectations about how people work together based on where along this product curve you are. But what you'll notice here is I'm trying to represent that the company here knows that their product, their first product, product A, the one that's represented by the green line, will reach a market saturation threshold at some point, and they won't continue to grow with that single product. And so they've planned instead to begin investing in a second product and try to time it so that when that second product starts to hit market fit and pick up and generate additional profit, it's really right around the same time that the first product starts to level out. And obviously, timing this right is very tricky. It takes a lot of experimentation. It takes a lot of, being very open to what your customers want. And none of this is rocket science. None of this is something where you can use math or a whole bunch of calculations and guarantee that this is going to line up. And this is one of the things that I get most frustrated with, and you may have as well when you go into a software company, is when they have this illusion of control. But just what I want to get across to you today is how important it is that the business you're working at is considering these things. If you're working at a company and they've put all their investment into a single product, for example, and that product's starting to reach saturation and they're spending a lot of money on it and they don't seem to be able to grow, there's a good chance that they're not managing their business properly. They really need to be looking at new market opportunities and offering different products that are going to generate additional revenue. So how have you convinced stakeholders at your company maybe that they need to think about the way they're managing their business differently? I find as a software developer, oftentimes I'm looked at as just someone who is there to write code when I'm brought in, even as a consultant, depending on how I sell myself. But I've actually had a lot of success coming into companies that seem to be really frustrated with their product management. They're not sure where to go, and just helping them understand these 3 slides that I just showed you really can start to open their eyes and reset their expectations a little bit so they know, you know what, maybe we need to stop trying to press so hard against our current product or products as the source of revenue, and we need to get much more creative and think outside the box if we're going to remain profitable and the company's going to continue to grow. So if you like this video today and you know anybody else who has a software business or a software developer that maybe needs to understand the business on a basic level and how the life cycle of software companies change depending on where their products are, go ahead and share this video with them. Leave me your comments below, and if you're new on my YouTube channel, please subscribe. You can click the little bell icon and it'll actually notify you when I have new videos available. If you'd rather listen as a podcast, I'm also on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, and you can like me on Facebook. So until next time, thanks.